So good morning everyone, and welcome to IIT Ropar physically and for the virtual students also. And I am going to talk about how to deliver a talk. And in this presentation, I will be touching on some of the important things which you can use for a good presentation, for a technical one as well as for a generic talk. So first, and the very important thing is to measure and know your audience. So it is important to understand what demographic features your audience is having. So for example, what is the age range of your audience, if there is a majority of any gender, if there is a previous background, what is their knowledge level. So for example, if you want to talk about something to school students, uh, and in comparison to a technical talk in a conference where experts on that subject matter are present, then in that case, the presentations on the same topic should be different. So you can use the knowledge of the audience to skip a few things and focus on the statements which you want to make. And if you are talking to an audience for which the knowledge level is a little early, in the early stage, in that case you need to establish some of the information which are important to understand the statement which you are making. Otherwise they will not follow what you are trying to say, and tailor your message to resonate with them. Sometimes it works to use a sense of humor in your presentation to crack a joke, but it is a risky thing. So sometimes people can take offense to the funny elements of your presentation. So therefore, you should. It is advisable for you to make your own decision in this matter. And if you know that this joke or funny element of your presentation is going to work, then only use it. Otherwise, don't. So then the next important thing is communication skill, and you know that maximum amount of communication happens via non-verbal features of your body language, and it also acts as a framing effect, which I will tell you in the subsequent slides. So it is important to be presentable, even if you think that it is not important. It is. And especially also for an online presentation, if you think that everything is not going to be captured in a camera, so there is no need to be presentable, it is not true. First, it makes and sets your mood for the presentation. If you are presentable, if you look good, then you feel good. And secondly, it does have an effect on the audience. And in an online presentation, it is easier to switch off your video and give a presentation, but it is advisable that you switch on your video so that people can get connected with you. Respect the time limit which is given to you, and the timing of making this statement is also very important. At what time you want to make the conclusive remarks, that has to come in the storyline where it is most important and where the evidence is available. You can make use of your voice to grab attention. Sometimes it happens that people are not really interested in your presentation, or some people are just talking to their friends, and that is creating a disturbance to your presentation. In that case, you can change your voice a little bit, raise it or lower it, so that people will notice that modulation, and they will their attention will be attracted towards you. Then every slide should make a point, otherwise there is no need to put a slide. So when you are making presentation and you are putting a slide there, you should ask yourself that what is the need of this slide, what you are going to convey with that slide, and it should not be a casual random distribution of the slide in the storytelling. Every presentation is a story which you want to tell, with a plot which you begin with to set, and then you should have some work done, and so therefore there will be some points where you will need to grab attention of the people, and there are ways of doing it, and then state the purpose, which, so for example, why you are giving that presentation. And then the key points or key outcomes which is important for your presentation, you should always support it with evidences. And then you need to conclude by making 2-3 points, important points, which you want the audience to take away after your presentation is over. So I'll be explaining a few things here. So for example, you can use the schematics to whatever you want to say in a presentation. So for example, if I want to talk about differences between similar and dissimilar metal wells, then I can write these 3 lines in the form of text on a presentation, and it is not very good, but it is also not very bad. But so for example, I want to say that similar metal wells and dissimilar metal wells. So in dissimilar metal wells, you have complicated microstructure and mechanical properties. They vary differently in the differently deforming regions because of the variation in the cooling rates and because of the differences in the thermal conductivity of the 2 different metals. The heat affected zone is going to be different on the 2 sides. So by writing this, I have to read it, and it is not very attractive, but I can use a schematic like this, and from here I can explain that when you have 2 different materials on the 2 sides of the weldment, and in one case you have thermal conductivity more, then the heat affected zone is going to be different, and then there are different grain sizes because of which the properties of these regions will be different, and those properties can be seen here. So when I present the same idea using a schematic, it makes more sense, it is easier, and people will understand more in comparison to writing text. Then grabbing an attention. So if you look at this picture, and if I ask you that what do you remember from this picture, then I don't know, maybe you will answer that there were 2 guys, one was old, one was young, and they were probably in a farm, but nobody will notice, or nobody will talk about, oh, see, there is a cow there are 2 cows, 3 cows, but cows are boring, so nobody will give more attention to that. But if you have a purple cow, then people will think or notice that, because how often do you see a purple cow? So creating a difference in continuous schematic or text will grab attention. That could be one way of having or grabbing attention. Then there is something called anchoring effect, and the reference of this I have taken from the book of Daniel Kahneman, who is a Nobel Prize winner in psychology. So I'll tell you what it is. So what is the fracture toughness of zirconia, which is a ceramic? Well, if you don't know, then it's only 70 megapascal root meter. And by using yttria in it, you can stabilize zirconia so that fracture toughness of zirconia increases. And what do you think? Can you guess the fracture toughness of stabilized zirconia? And probably you can guess because it is improved, so maybe it is 80 to 100 or something. But the reality is that zirconia has a fracture toughness of 6 to 10, and when you stabilize it with yttria, it is 8 to 15 megapascal only. So because this information was not there with some of you, then by giving a value of 70 here, I kind of anchored your idea on this value. And then even if I ask you to make a guess, your guess will be floating close to this number. So you will not go much higher than this number. But well, in this case, you will be going only higher than this number. You will not go to 8 to 15 because you don't have the real value. So anchoring effect is to throw a value to the audience, and then they will stick with it. They will be very close to it. It also works in some other applications, but in presentation it can work. Then another way which you can use in your presentation is cognitive ease. So one example I'll give you is that Matthew International is a publicly traded company selling coffins for funerals. Do you want to invest in it? So you can answer in yes, maybe, and no. And so most of the people, and this was a question which was asked in an open survey, and many people answered in no, and very less number of people answered in maybe or yes. The reason is that should you invest in Matthews International requires some information which is not available. For example, what is the turnover of this company, and what is the consumer expenditure, and how this company works and all. So those information are not available, and therefore this is a difficult question to answer. And therefore most of the people will think, do I like funerals and coffins? And that is an easy question which your brain would like to answer, and the answer to that question will be no, and therefore that answer will replace the answer to the real question which has been asked. This is sometimes problematic. For example, after your presentation, if somebody asking question and that's a difficult question, your brain will choose an easy question and will try to answer that. So in that case, you shouldn't do it. That is wrong. But in a presentation, you can ask a difficult question, and you can use the concept of cognitive ease so that people will try to look at something else. You can also identify this when you are listening to a presentation, whether the presenter is trying to use this idea so to deflect from the real idea or from the truth. Then framing effect is the way you frame a problem. So for example, 3 different types of interlayers were checked in a composite, and the fracture toughness was measured, and after that they found that for one particular combination of matrix and interlayer 2, the fracture toughness was maximum. So the value lower means it is maximum. So if you present the result in a way like, so only material which was available was matrix with IL-2, and that's why we did the experiment with matrix and IL-2, then that does not make much impact on the audience. But you can present the same effect, same result with a different story. So you can say that this prediction was made before fabricating the samples, and then we found that because IL-2 is giving maximum fracture toughness, we decided to manufacture that sample, fabricate those samples with IL-2 and then prove it. So in this case, you are not playing with the reality, but you are presenting the idea, you are framing the idea in a way where it makes more sense, where it makes more impact on your audience. The other effect is priming effect. So you can prime your audience with something, and then you can divert them in certain directions. So for example, real research by Daniel Kahneman was done where a lot of young students were divided into 2 groups, and they were asked, so they were thrown this idea, so they were shown a movie clip where a lot of old people were there, and then they were asked to move from one door to another door, and their walking was recorded, and it was found that all those young people were really walking very slow, and this other group was not shown any movie clip, and they were walking as a young person will walk. I'll give you an example of this priming effect in a video. So in this video, a comedian, Jimmy Fallon, he plays dumb charade with a celebrity which I do not know, and the word which he's trying to explain is cats, and I believe that's a movie, but you will see that before explaining, so he knows what the word is, and before explaining that word to him, he will talk about animals and ranch, so that this person will think, so those words will affect his brain, so that he thinks about animals and he thinks about a ranch, and therefore it is a smaller set where if you explain cats, he will be able to find out that the word is cats, although in this case he is not able to do that. So I'll just play this video for a short while and you will see that.
I don't know if you're gonna get
So-
this, man. You like
Just try, what are you doing?
do you live in a ranch? You live in a ranch or something like that? Can you really change a flat tire? Don't talk about real man like that.
So you see that he talks about animals and ranch before explaining this because he knows about priming effect, but the person doesn't, and at the end this person is not able to guess it, but it works. A few other details which are important is that and these things are important for technical presentation. So if, for example, in a study, if you are varying 3 parameters and you have let us say 3 plots to show the results, then you should keep the legends and marker of the 3 different variations same. So for example, if you have 2 mm, 3 mm, 4 mm wires, you want to explain their tensile tests and chemical composition, then in all those plots you should identify the 2 mm thick wire with, let us say, red circle only. And so if in one of the plots you're using as red circle, in all the plots you use them as red circles, so that even if they forget the legend, they will have this continuity that red circle means or represents 2 mm wire. Every detail in a presentation, however small, so you think that if I write megapascal or if I write kg in capital, it doesn't matter because small letters or capital letters will not make much difference, but that is not true. So every detail matters, including the header and footer, and sometimes people forget to change the date, sometimes people forget to change the slide numbers because they have copied the slide from the previous presentation. So those things look very shabby and it gives a bad image. So it presents a bad image on your audience. And you shouldn't read the text on the slide too much. Those are clues only, and you should talk by taking reference to whatever you have written on the slide, but you shouldn't literally read it like a translator. And always you should try to do a dry run before the talk. So wherever the talk is, you should go there and you should check the slides if they are really opening as you wanted them to open. If you have stage fear, then you should get familiarized with the stage before the final presentation. So for example, if you're going in a conference, try to go to that room and try to just walk around that stage area when nobody is there. So for example, a day before, when the conference has ended and that room is empty, or maybe 2-3 people or they are on a break, just go to the stage area and make some movement, get familiarized with what things are and how the audience is looking from the stage, and that will help you a lot in dealing with your stage fear. When you are talking to the audience, try to make an eye contact. This becomes a problem in a virtual presentation, but in a physical presentation, you should make eye contact. It shouldn't be that you're looking at no one, because that is a vacant look which people will not really relate with you. So if you have fear of making eye contact with audience, then you should find somebody. If you don't have a friend in the audience, try to have conversation with some of the people in the audience before your presentation, and then just make eye contact with them, and that will work. Sometimes it becomes problematic to tackle questions. So it usually happens that there are some people in the audience who will try to irritate you, who will try to ask questions which are not really a question. And in that case, you can handle them politely. So for example, if somebody is asking a question and you answer that, you believe you answered that, and he or she is not very happy with your answer, and then there is a follow-up question, and then you answered that also, but then that guy is not stopping. In that case, you can simply say that, because I have a time limit, I will be discussing with you after this presentation in person. So using these words politely will leave a good impact on the other audience, and in that way you can tackle the question easily. And that is it, and I hope that I have given you some tips about how to deliver a good talk. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer, and I wish you all the best. Thank you very much.